Ready to take yet another win, isolating themselves at the top of the standings, but I will not admit anyone who tells me Blue Whites was not this close to surprising everybody.
I mean,
I'll
they-
disagree
allow
a
it.
little. Disagree. You go first, Red, but I do disagree.
I mean,
There's
they
reasons
were.
for it.
They got sent so far behind early on in the game. Then they flipped everything around. Eggets was farming the whole Summoner's Rift map, but it wasn't enough because you're playing versus Ruddy, and Ruddy have been born in that chaos. They were molded in it. You didn't see structured League of Legends. I did. They were proper lads. So. You can't actually count Ruddy ever out, and to be honest, they were never in any deficit. So anytime that they had a tempo move, they were capitalizing on it. They were finding those skirmishes. They were punishing MKR time and time again. And a Jinx without time on the map is no Jinx at all.
Yeah,
respect.
and I think on top of that as well, some of the on-screen moments look good. Eggets in particular, that Poppy was really, really frustrating with the roams out of lane to turn what were 2v2 and 3v3 skirmishes, particularly on that blue side jungle, into a 4v3, which caught Ruddy off guard a few times. But it always came at cost. It left MKR in a really difficult position without his flash. Or on the other side, suddenly, okay, well, we've gotten the pick and so we've lost 2 tier 2s. Nothing came for free. And actually, despite some of those on-screen moments going relatively even, the gold leads kept growing because of the CS numbers, because of the towers, because of what it was costing Blue Whites in order to try and punish some of Ruddy's placements and assumptions of where enemy team members were on the map. And I will shout out, catching Alaric out a few times in that topside river could have cost Ruddy once or twice. Had been a little later in the game. Baron was definitely a possibility if he'd been doing that a little later on. So they got away with it a bit too. So I'm sure there'll be some conversations about that.
A new page for Blue Whites, but also a new victory for Ruddy. Yet again, they outstand themselves. So let's conversate and talk a little bit with the coach himself. Wolverine, long time no see. There he is. Wait, hello?
Yo.
I got sound now. I got sound. How you doing? It has been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
A minute. Okay, you end the first half of the split first place, and now you get another victory versus Blue Whites. But what is your takeaway from the first half of the split? How are you looking into the team? Tell me, how proud are you, or how mad are you? Because I know you have some weird takes, and I want to take them all in.
I think we've had a really rough start. We lost to some really awful teams. We had a lot of things that were just outside of our control that made practice very difficult. So we've not had a good start at all. I think players are feeling frustrated because things aren't going smoothly. I mean, I'm not even immune to that. I felt a lot of that frustration. I mean, even before that, I'd lost, I'd say I lost confidence in the off season. I felt I had to do things different. Second split, I had to kind of change my bag, but then I didn't have as much time this split either. Missed a lot of scrims. I don't think I ever really got over that. I feel if I'm not putting in 8 hours a week, I start feeling like a bum. So starting the split, it has not been good. First half has been rough. It's been real stressful. But at the end of the day, job's got to get done, right? A lot of things are not going to go smoothly. Probably most things in life, things that should be easy, aren't going to be easy. But at the end of the day, we know it has to be done. Lucky for us, we're blessed. We have an easy job, right?
Why? Why is that so?
This is a bum league. All we really have to do is we put in the work and we come up focused on game days. We will win the league. So we have an easy job, but we have to get to the point where we're ready to shut everything else out and just focus. Things didn't go smooth, things didn't go well. It doesn't matter, right? No one is going to come do that for you. We have to just focus and forget anything that's happened. And we got our 6-2. We have a good start standings wise. We have a wide berth. We're pretty much locked playoffs. So we have a lot of time to get to the level that we need to.
So riddle me this: when you look into the idea that, well, as long as you put in the work, this is an easy league for you. What happens if at the end of the road, the first place is not yours?
I don't think it matters too much. I mean, I'm focused on just the level we're playing at, and we don't care about lower bracket run. I imagine we will place an upper bracket, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you think you'll take the league regardless? Like at the end of playoffs, it's going to be yours.
And postseason is where it counts, right? Like where you come into postseason is irrelevant. Like you have to beat all the teams anyways.
Yeah, I see. I see. Thank you so much, Wolverine. Best of luck, and let's see at the end of the split. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate it.
Because I understand some people may look into these sort of interviews and say, I mean, why is he saying that? In my opinion as a host, it's like, hey, I like that because if you slip, I'll be there to make you like pay for that.
I mean, especially after you call it a bum leak, if you get slapped back by the bum, that's saying something. And yeah, you're saying that you had some troubles, but you're still not the cleanest. I will respect that statement if they actually go ahead and win the whole thing, but if you don't, that's some karma up there.
Initialize, I see it in your eyes. Let it out,
I think
let it
this
out.
is also like, if you want to know where Ruddy get their swagger from, that's the kind of statement that shows you that in largely, I think, a positive way as well. Of course, it makes you a bit of a villain. Right? You're going to be out there, be arrogant, be confident, believe you are going to be the best, and the journey's just an inevitability, right? That you are going to be the ones on top of it all. We're just better. It's the statement, right?
I
But
like
when you
it,
get
yeah.
to lock in Yone Riven, style in the solo lanes, block in things like the Kai Sorel, punish the Jinx for when they're being left alone. That is the kind of confidence that Ruddy have used to build the style of play that they do. And yes, it sometimes gets a little messy, but that's because they're always willing to take the skill check. They need to get a little bit better, I think, at reading where enemy members are on the map and maybe being a little bit more respectful of what enemies can do. But that kind of just inimitable confidence is ridiculously hard to overcome, assuming they are actually learning their lessons and not getting too blind to the flaws they need to work on. I guess.
To end this matchup, we need to highlight the MVP, and you voted for Alex, but at the end of the day, it's not him. It is Rel. Alaric is actually the MVP. Middlecott asked for it, and I mean, we gotta hand it to him. Like he suffered enough. So yeah, Alaric is the MVP.
I mean, I don't really agree. He got punished a lot for a lot of weird decisions, but at the end of the day, he had some highlights as well. Okay, 3-4 man, Magnus Storms,
Big
and
odds,
so
yeah,
on.
yeah.
So yeah, as a support player, sorry, I respect the decision and I keep it close to my heart. But as an analyst,
I think, it's also fair to shout out that actually one of the big things that Alarix really did help do was when MKR had the flash and the barrier blown, that Rel was permanently attacking the Jinx. Wasn't roaming around the map as freely and effectively as he gets, that's fair, but was consistently making sure the Jinx was pretty miserable in bot lane. And that was quite important as a part of that Ruddy win condition, I guess.
Now-
It's not like Alaric had a bad game, and there were some real moments that I think definitely stand out, particularly in terms of making sure the Jinx had a miserable time in bot lane, as I said.
Now we move on to LLS versus DMG. We wanted to talk about this one. This is an interesting one. Last time they've met, Bucci with Cassandra destroyed Elijah as a Varus top. Will it be the same? I don't think it will, because I want to focus on the mid lane. Let's showcase the mid laners, because there's a lot to talk about this. Actually, the top lane, apparently.
I thought it was top lane. That's what I thought. Wait, it's mid lane. I wasn't
It's
prepped for that.
both. Don't worry, we'll talk about top lane to begin with.
spoilers. But yeah, I mean, this is I'd say some typical top lane champus. If you discount the Varus, of course, together with some other marksmen, have been slipping their way into every lane, if I'm being honest with you, even the support ones. So some numbers kind of lie. I don't think like the KDA really matters when you're playing top lane, especially when you're playing all those frontliners like the Renekton, the Cassante, the Gragas. You need to get yourself in there. You need to sacrifice yourself for your team's benefit, but I'm mostly looking at the XP differential, because if we're gonna see a replay, a grudge repeat of the first matchup, you need to be ahead in XP, you need to be ahead in gold. So especially when you're picking all those immobile and scaling carries, you need to actually stomp the lane for it to matter, because otherwise, you just, once again, slam a Cassante. That's the easiest blind pick on the planet right now.
But keep in
I
mind,
think that's
Bucci destroyed as a Renekton as well. The Gragas, you specifically highlighted that one as well, Initialize.
Yeah, and he has kind of been a bit of a... pretty much the only player who's been really, really focusing the Gragas. He's been very, very effective on it, and I think the fact we have seen, yes, he's got this pick that he likes to go towards, but he has got other champions he's been successful on, is great news, especially considering the consistent level of play he's been doing. I do have some questions about Elijah in terms of what happens if he doesn't get Cassante? Or what happens if the Cassante doesn't work because it's being answered, because, you know, you can pick things like Rumble into it, which can really bully the Cassante out.
You can play Varus.
Bucci can do that. Yes, but the only champion he's got wins on this split is the Cassante. Everything else hasn't worked out. And that is why, for Elijah, the level has improved, but I do need to see him succeed on something that isn't named Cassante, or I think it might prove to be a little bit of a paper tiger, and the moment you start looking into it a bit deeply, it'll fall apart.
But I also believe it's like a coach situation, because he asked, like, I want to bring a new champion. Allow me to play other things. So there's a window. I think he needs to go on that window right now. Tell me, Rev.
I mean, I think it's a little bit of a team situation, because when you have Sumi and Fruity Fresh on your team, all of the focus goes towards her, okay? You are doing what you can to enable those people to play their own specific champions, like the Tryndamere or the Relion Soul bottom lane or the Swain, and so it goes. So I think now that the Cassante is actually banned from their side, it kind of opened up some other tank ideas. I'm thinking of Horn, maybe Zac, all of those picks that can be kind of line-picked versus another player that doesn't really play carries that punish all those tanks. I don't remember to have seen a Camille or something.
This is weird, because you're looking into this and you're like, wait, is this LLS banning? It should be DMG, taking away the way, taking away Cassante. There's a plan. I think there's a plan.
Yeah, you have to assume so. And again, LLS have, generally speaking, decided that their draft spice, the secret sauce they're going to add in, tends to come from Fruity Fresh and his weird picks, and to an extent Sumi as well. But it means your kind of staples of your dish, of your composition, tend to be asked of other members of the team. Particularly Elijah was saying, like, look, this is the staple bet, you're going to be asked to blind pick, let's go here and we'll give the counter picks elsewhere. The fact that they are the ones banning away the Cassante and the Gragas away from Bucci suggests a bit of a change in that drafting strategy. You're absolutely right, and it does suggest a plan. The important thing is, it's a different plan to what we're used to seeing. I'll be interested to see exactly how it works out. On the other side, they've gotten rid of the Varus, they've gotten rid of the Rumble, and the Poppy as well. A first pick Skarner. It's Cassante, but new age, guys.
Yep.
What can Bucci do into it? We typically see things like the TF. Is he comfortable to do that here?
I don't really like... you know what? I don't really like anything into Skarner in the top lane. Okay, I've seen him go into Comet. I see him go any other rune. I mean, you can pick anything, even First Strike, if you're feeling kind of ballsy, and just spam it with W, you get some free money. The
Get the
Renekton...
Q off all the time, just keep throwing rocks, yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
and the Renekton is gonna be fine. Bucci is a Renekton monster, honestly. So I'm not gonna be too worried about that one. But the Skarner, it's not only that he can pressure lane, it's also that he can shove waves and move around the map, especially with his E ability. Just go in, cut some time, be there 5-10 seconds earlier than the enemy laner. And if LLS will start playing the map, especially towards Sumi, I think that's gonna be a huge pressure factor.
Yeah, and then I'm looking at what they're thinking of trying to do. Interesting, they've locked in the Ezreal. We have seen a little bit of people in ERS deciding, actually, we can throw the Ezreal mid lane. So we'll see whether that's a decision, especially because this is Lightside, who have been really willing to flex what is the expected bot laner and what is the expected mid laner around pretty consistently. I think that's a lock-in of the Maokai as well. So between the Maokai and the Sejuani and the slipperiness of this Ezreal, you have a lot of CC lockdown and a lot of quite difficult to engage on backline. The response is pretty rapidly a Karthus. It's not an engage option from Bitzer, but it does allow you to threaten the Ezreal, who can't jump away from R from Karthus.
Yet again, looking for that AP in the jungle. We saw him yesterday with the Lilia and he completely destroyed. He was the MVP. Last time they faced, it was Bucci, the MVP, by the way, for those who don't remember what happened. DMG won the first game. But now, Corki has been, like, is still on the table. Aurelian Soul because of Fruity Fresh. I don't know. I feel like there's a trap in here coming in from DMG. This is interesting.
Well, the trap in some ways is sprung, right? Because Tristana Karthus is nearly unbeatable in a side lane. If the Tristana gets the 2 items, you jump forwards and auto and press R and you knock someone away, and then Karthus presses R and you die. It's what happens.
It's the meme of you looking into the sky like...
Yeah, and it's mixed damage, and Tristana and Karthus both scale obscenely well. So your ability to play out those side lanes in particular is really hard to mitigate. Of course, you have got the Maokai and the Skarner who are pretty good in those team fight scenarios potentially against those guys. You don't have decent frontline to deal with it, but they've still got one of the premier combos from whatever region you care to look at right now.
The thing is, you need to get to those side lane scenarios. You need to actually scale up to 2 items, maybe 3 for the side of the DMG, because on the other hand, I'm looking at LLS, and right now they're having a zone control poke comp. If they pick any long range damage dealer from the bottom side and then engage, it is actually unbeatable when you try to dance around the Baron, dance around the Drakes, you just throw saplings away. When the enemy tries to engage, you go in with your roots. There's all you can poke away from a long way. The Skarner can poke away because he's kind of a poke champion himself, especially with the max Q. The damage it does is absurd for a tank. So I'm looking right now at a very nice team composition if the game is slow and controlled. If you manage to just force the enemy team to answer all your Drake shenanigans, answer the grabs, answer the Herald, you are looking at a team that can actually fight very nicely and control the area when they first do that beautiful objective.
I'll also note it because you've locked in the Nautilus right now. You can absolutely look towards a Senna if you want to last pick, and then you throw down Senna R and Karthus R on wherever the Tristana is, and you can be really good at enabling that option. And of course, that is still a possibility. I quite like Leona here, but I just think Leona in general is really, really busted right now between Warmogs and Eclipse. That champion is obscenely tanky. I saw a Leona earlier today survive Yone, Sejuani, Kai'Sa, and something else for a solid 20 seconds and burn all of their ultimates. It was mad. Mako getting 9,000 assists in the LPL earlier with that kind of play. Ridiculous. So they will go towards the center on the other side. Lightside have got themselves a lot of lockdown CC to try and burn people out. I'll notice it's Fruity Fresh on the Kai'Sa. So that could well be
that
an
is
AP Kai'Sa bot lane and then the Ezreal mid lane. So it is still the weirdness that we've come to expect from Lightside's mid and bot lane.
And still a lot of poke as well. I was expecting a little bit of the Ezreal in the bottom lane because it's a bastard duo with the Leona. The Leona passive amplifies the Ezreal damage by a mile, so you can actually explode people earlier in the game as well. But the Kai'Sa is still very fine. You can go towards that full AP build and be kind of a moving board in the early game and then just start sniping people. Or I've seen the ye old kind of hybrid Kai'Sa with the AP scaling in the end.
Nash's Rage Blade kind of build. Yeah.
And then when you hit that 3-item power spike, your zone control once again spikes through the roof.
Well, two teams that are still looking for the top, but tell me, Initialize, before we toss it.
Okay. If Lightside can get to 2 items for free, their team fight is going to be obnoxious as hell. So much scary frontline, double item AD carry with all that frontline, always a good call. However, their wave clear sucks. It is very short range, and it's an Ezreal R. So if that doesn't happen, Tristana could snowball this game out of recognition with so much support to allow her to shove turrets for free.
Early game might decide the entire game. I agree with you 100%. You need to keep track of those items. You need to keep track of these two teams who are looking to the top of the standings. Well, tossing to a wonderful gentleman, Redude and Middlecott. Mustachio, a question.
Just snuck it in there, didn't he?
Right in there, Mustachio question. I like the framing though. Top of the table clash, because it well and truly is a top of the table clash. Lightside only 1 win behind DMG, as it stands. But if DMG are able to get the dub in this game, then they do start to put a little bit of distance between themselves and the rest of the chasing pack.
Equally, if it's Lightside that are able to find a win here, it puts the cat amongst the pigeons almost for that playoffs race. We're questioning whether or not we're going to have a top 3 and then a chasing 4th, or if we're going to have a clump of teams facing off against one another for playoffs.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how they throw down as we jump on to Summoner's Rift. Let's go, everybody. Game number 2 of the second round robin. Lundvis Lightside, to give them their full title, facing off against DMG, which I don't believe stands for anything. But we have got a game on our hands. And Rooted, I want to be drawing our attention towards the top side to start us off.
Why?
Why? I'll tell you why. Last split, Bucci came in to the league. Not a lot of expectations surrounding this guy, but ended up performing very, very well for himself as a rookie here in Division 1. And honestly, coming into summer, look at him as one of the best top laners.
Yeah, and I think that the important part that we're going to highlight for this matchup is the sort of parallels between now Elijah's sort of success almost in Division 1 and that of Bucci. Obviously, with that extra split under the belt, Bucci has started to pivot. We've seen a Renekton game just last week where he was phenomenal, and now piloting that one once again versus another bruiser in that top side. But for Elijah, following a very similar arc to the one that we saw from Bucci, not particularly playing your Renektons, your Vaynes, Camille's, etc., but looking standout on tanks and bruisers, and general trade patterns, knowing where to be on the map, acting well in these team fights, have proven to be some very solid strategies from him so far.
Yeah, doing it on light side as well. Maybe there's just something in Sweden that makes the top laners a little bit better. But I think another player that I'm really keen to look at in this matchup is Bitzer coming out of the jungle. Looking at DMG right at the start of the split, I think we're happy to say that the solo lanes were looking good, and Snarby is a player who, after a couple of splits in the NLC, is at least solid. But Bitzer, after finishing last in Prime League Division 3, was a big question mark, but I think he has only gone from strength to strength every single game.
Absolutely. Started out the split and we were, questioning a little bit. I believe there was a Zinzao game in there where we were throwing a few question marks in, but last week on the Karthus played very, very well, has been pivoting to more toward these carries, much akin to the Kit Yurikan play style of champion, and now is starting to have similar levels of success as well. I won't claim that they've gone just as high in the levels as Kit Yurikan. I think that that's probably our best jungler in the league, to be honest, as Bitzer has definitely started to take up a much more carry focused role, and instead of us looking at just the laners of DMG and going, okay, let's see how the supporting roles can help them, the junglers are helping out as well.
Yeah, a bit of a skirmish here on the bottom side as the wave is crashing towards DMG. Honestly, not much in it in terms of the health bars trade, although Dynamics burning that cleanse could be a pivotal summon spell for a little bit later. Maybe even right now, though, as Bartoldi has completely skipped his bottom side.
Okay.
But with the Zenith Blade missing from Fastlife, will back away from going for a dive. But I love that we're talking about this, right?
Absolutely, and with the showing on the bot side there from Bartholdi, it's been it's going to give Bitze a lot of time now. We knew the Karthus was going to be clearing faster than the Maokai regardless, so I don't mind from Bartholdi there that they just say, I will try and gank, we'll make something work, I'm never going to outpace the Karthus regardless. But now look at how deep the ward that we've seen from Bitzer come through. Not even on any of the camps, that's like an entrance to the jungle to spot that they're just going to be on the top side. Able to steal away probably both of these crabs as well. Get a sizable
hello there.
base.
Sumi needs to be very careful here. I mean, the Karthus ganks aren't particularly threatening, but if you get hit with one of those Skittles and you're on your own, then it's not going to be a good showing for you. Bucci might be looking for a dive here onto Elijah, who's low on mana, but not low enough on health for the DMG top laner to feel like getting aggressive. But
Does he know?
He's going to spot Bitzer stealing away his Raptors, but with Sumi not looking too healthy in the mid lane, I think Bartoldi wisely decides not to contest.
Not even the respawn Raptors. Hold on, Flash Twisted Advance.
Skate Rot has just got the level up, and and jump himself away.
Okay, holds on to the summoner spell. Range is not quite there as Bucci. He wants this dive, man.
Well, he's going to get stunned into the tower. Level up actually from Elijah, and the Renekton flashing away to escape, and that's the issue with Skarner. You can never rest on your laurels. You can never think that you've got complete control of the lane, because he can just do something like that.
Okay, I'm getting really worried about Bartholdi this game. He is just walking around, not particularly accomplishing anything, trying to gank mid lane, just look top lane. He's getting really behind versus this Karthus. We've just seen Bitse steal away a set of Raptors. Is now clearing for the second time top to bot.
Well, Skate Rot not quite in a position to buff the rocket jump away immediately, but of course can use it as Fastlane is jumping in. And I get the playstyle, right? This is something that you can do on the Maokai up against the Karthus. You try and affect the map as early as possible. You try and get your lanes ahead before the inevitable Karthus comes to town. But if you go for that playstyle and it doesn't hit, it's just given so much time for Bitse to free pump. He is double Bartholdi's CS right now.
It's because he's full cleared twice and stole away some chickens from Bartholdi. So it's been a genuinely terrifying opener for the Maokai, not being able to accomplish anything on the map. The only summoner spell that we've seen burned from DMG came from a 2 versus 2 and Fastlane with a good engage. Need to see Bartholdi try and use that summoner advantage, honestly. We've not got long left before that cleanse is back up and ready, and a Senna in a mobile mistress, rather, down on the bot side. I'm not going to say mate, but it begins with an M, so I'll try my best to pivot with it. And when you're looking at the rest of the lanes, Tristana has Rocket Jump, Renekton, Slice and Dice. I'm looking, where can I gank as a Maokai? The Senna looks like the best option.
Yeah, and the issue is if you're not putting her behind at this stage, she's another one of those champions that is going to scale absolutely phenomenally. Does mean, though, that Snarby is going to be a little bit more tied to the bot lane. I think we're used to seeing this guy roaming all over the map, but mid lane isn't really a destination that he can go for now. Bucci actually dicing in onto Elijah, is going to be popping the Dominus as well. Full Fury on the Renekton. I'm not sure Elijah has enough in the tank to survive this onslaught. Pushes him onto the tower, but still gets taken down for first blood.
Slice Dyson, he is out of turret range as well. Bucci comes up clutch. Sniped away though. Sumi claims one back to salvage the top lane.
I tell you what though, we are full on power mode for Bucci. He's not going to care that he got sniped at the end. He went for the 1v1 and he got the W.
Fast recall, gets to come out of base with full HP without having to wait for his health to come back up. No big deal. Big fan for Bucci claiming a solo kill up on that top side. Was cutting it close there, but, you know, just making sure that the rookie in the NLC knows quite who the king of top lane has been.
Yeah, DMG were able to pick up the first few Void Grubs, but as we see so often with these early objectives, they will give up this dragon in trade as Lightside moving multiple members down to make sure they secure it.
Of course, the Void Grubs did go to DMG a little bit earlier, so a more traditional trade coming through. Those Grubs, first Drake, and obviously with Bucci's success on the top side, expectation is that those top side objectives do end up going the way of DMG. Also, just with having a Senna and an Nautilus down on that bot side, there's a world where you can try and play aggressive with it, definitely, but it looks like Fruity Fresh and Fastlane, who have really been a bit of a standout bot lane for me. Not a bot lane that I was expecting to be this good, I will be completely honest with you. But a bot lane that have stepped up to the plate in NLC Division 1 and that have been using this Kai'Sa now in this game to punish the early game weakness of a Senna. Got not necessarily the biggest CS lead, but burning some early summoner spells and pushing in, getting turret plates. I say that, there's still 5 turret plates standing, but it feels like they could have been.
Yeah, no, the option was there, right? But we're looking for this duo to sort of push that advantage in the early stages, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, if we add up the total CS numbers on both sides, it's actually DMG who are looking ahead a little bit. So I don't know how it works with Senna. The gold generation is always a little bit funky, but all I'm seeing is 400 lead for Fruity Fresh, but 1k lead for Snarby. Nautilus so often this engaged tank, but very much more engaged than tank. I think that Snarby is going to be a little bit beefier than maybe Lightside would necessarily expect coming into mid-game.
looks like he's working towards that Thimble Winter as well as Bucci's going in.
Another fight in the top side. Requiem is going to come through, not deal a huge bunch of damage onto Elijah. He's still going to get stunned up, though. The Dawning Shadow, the Global Ultimate's making sure it's not even a 1v1. It's not even a 1v2. 3v1 in the top side, and it's another kill for Bucci.
Going right into the Croc's hands. Now Sumi in trouble.
Our roam into the midsection. The flash and the arcane shift make sure that the Buster Shot pushes Sumi back to safety. But the pressure that Bitze is now starting to put out onto the map. He hasn't even completed his first item, but assist in the top side, instrumental in that flash burn in the mid lane, and still, Bartholdi is yet to get anything done.
Yeah, and with this Liandry's rush as well, he's going to be exceptionally squishy. Starting out with the plated steel caps, yeah, it gives you some staying power, but most of the times you're going to be fighting versus Bitze. I see 0 MR so far on the roster of Lightside, and that, again, it scares me. The composition that DMG draft so well adept at enabling a Karthus, because any MR built is solely for one target. The armor has so much value this game. Tristana, the Senna, the Renekton. Perfect game to build armor in, but a Karthus is just loving life every time you do.
That's why we're starting to see him come to the fore, right? The AD mid laners that are so popular in League of Legends right now just enable him to be this absolutely menacing damage threat that you really don't want to have to itemize against. Bucci going for another aggressive trade in the top side, taking a fair chunk of HP, but with that Black Cleaver now completed, he can assert himself so much more onto Elijah.
Well, importantly, Middlecott, he has to wait. Namek still doesn't have ulti, nor does Bitzer, so any all-ins, we've got to be gated by the rest of the map.
Yeah, Elijah's like, bro, I thought we had a gentleman's agreement up in top lane now.
Well, nobody's strictly ganked. I don't see any junglers in the lane.
Yeah, I wanted an honourable duel, good sir, and you've got someone sniping me from halfway across the map.
Ah, yes, the lesser-known Mexican standoff where somebody is just 4,000 feet away with a massive 8-time scope. Anyway, with the gank on that top side not actually coming to the fourfold, and we've got Bitze trying to steal away some jungle camps. Worth mentioning that Bartholdi has been able to keep a little bit of pace recently, no longer getting almost doubled.
Oh, flash actually, but Skate Rock perfectly buffering the rocket jump and able to get himself up on out of there. And DMG, this is a game that they need to win to keep themselves at the top of the standings, and Lightside looking to change that as Sumi's going to get taken very low by that final turret shot, and Namek's cleansing away. It's 2 kills apiece, but it is DMG with the lead in terms of the gold, and it just keeps ganking. I can't believe it. Bitze now ganking by actually going into the lanes. What will he think of next?
That's just revolutionary stuff from Bitze this game. You know, ganking from within the jungle, perfectly within the remit of what we've begun to expect. However, actually going into the lane, absolutely iconic.
And it's starting to feel like it's slipping away from Lightside just a little bit. The bot side is looking relatively even in terms of the golds, but top lane, Renekton, Bucci getting 25 CS, maybe even more up here against Elijah, and Bitze, that ticking time bomb that we've been talking about ever since the start of the game, really starting to come online now.
And not to mention as well, the genuine concern we must have this game, Fruity Fresh, playing an actual marksman. Not before seen in the NLC almost, but playing this Kai'Sa just a little bit behind the counterpart of this Nautilus if we look at the gold disparity that we're expecting to see on both sides. Working towards that static shift, whether it's an on-hit hybrid style with the Ginsus and some AP later on, to give some more options for larger range damage to try and match up against that Kai'Sa. We'll have to wait and see. We've got to keep our eyes in the mid lane for Lightside. Yesterday, Sumi had a big lead on a Tristana. Unfortunately, had one too many throwbacks to Wild Turtle ultimates on the W. Managed to throw his life away a couple times. Now has the Ezreal, a champion with similar levels of throw potential. Hopefully we've learned from yesterday, with these 2 kills, you have all the resources from your team. You need to keep yourself safe and be the DPS that can carry you through the mid-game.
Yeah, you don't want to be Zvenning it.
No.
Unfortunately. But it's the perpetual issue with Ezreal, and I feel obliged to bring it up every time I see this champion. The best way to play Ezreal is on the limit, and that means that you want to be standing a little bit further forward than maybe you necessarily feel safe to. As Sumi absolutely going for it Mystic shot going wide under the tower, but Snubby coming over the wall for a little bit of retribution. The center is so damn low, but not damn dead. Blinking health bars on the DMG ADC, but he's staying himself in the game.
That's what we need to see from Sumi. That limit that you were talking about, middle cop, pretty much toggled within perfection right there. Bucci and Elijah, no minions on this top wave just yet, still scrapping it out. Elijah has to know though, down a level, down 3 kills at this point. Not the fight that he should be taking, as Lightside turn their attention up towards the Rift Herald. Remember, they're down 3,000 gold. They can seal away this objective. This is a big win for them.
Yeah, and they've sort of done it on the reset timers coming out from DMG. Snarby teleporting into the bot lane to pick up that wave and grab a little bit of damage. Every single time Elijah pushes back Bucci towards his tower, I feel like we're setting up for a situation where the Renekton's just going to go, okay, you're trying to kill me? No, I'm going to kill you.
I mean, kudos, honestly. That's the mentality that we need to be seeing in League of Legends more frequently. Looking as we get a little bit later on, though, through this game, and if we do end up seeing this game get stalled out, you know, we're at 15 minutes already, the game about 5 minutes away from potential explosion, do get a little bit concerned for how well we can see DMG find those engagements. All eyes on Snarby, and I've had this concern before, and in fairness, Snarby has never disappointed me. The Nautilus engage, definitely very prevalent, but trying to gap close onto a Kai'Sa, onto an Ezreal, if it's an AP Kai'Sa, if it's a Ezreal in any sense, is going to be difficult. Snarby got a big task ahead of him.
Yeah, and Bitsaid just first strike gaming right there on the Karthus. You just pop the ultimate down, get a little bit of money, and happen to chunk out people as a consequence. But I like the journey that we've really been on with DMG. Obviously, coming out of the first round robin at 5-2, looking like one of the stronger teams in the league, but we did have so many of these questions coming through. It feels like the synergy that's been built into this roster has really, really leveled up. We looked at them coming out as a group of strong individuals, but not necessarily maybe a strong team. For Lightside, though, almost the opposite case. Players coming up from Division 2, players coming up from the UKEL, they hit the ground running early, even able to get a win versus Ruddy, but in a way that feels like it's rhyming with Venom Crest of last split. It does feel like they're running out of steam a little bit.
And I like that narrative, to be honest with you. The early game push, or the early season push, potentially starting to meet its match as teams with theoretically higher ceilings begin to reach those apexes. She having a good trade up on that top side, but with the early aggression in the split that Lightside have put down, they have made a bit of a name for themselves. I've been, as mentioned, very impressed by Fruity Fresh and Fast Legged. Question becomes, can really Bartholdi step up for me? Looking at Sumi, he's been a great player for Lightside as well, a really diverse champion pool that has enabled some really eccentric drafts from them that do come out with advantages. Is Bartholdi now in a flash? Well, he's out. Never mind.
Yeah, able to get on out there, and it does feel like the tempo of the game has slowed somewhat in terms of the kill count, but in my mind, that's only really benefiting DMG. Usually when I see a team with a lead, you want them to try and push it as much as possible. You want them to try and take their advantages and run with it. But I don't know. I look at this composition that they've got for themselves, and I don't feel like they mind if this game gets dragged on a little bit later.
I think both sides can make an argument for their late game strength. My concern, I've highlighted with the range for light side that they can play at range. Of course, Karth Assault, targeted, does big damage. So there's equally a world where Karth Assault later on just wins every single team fight by proxy, and DMG are just going to start taking those wins without really ever having to 5v5 in the first place. So definitely an element of both of these teams potentially being happy with scaling and just taking a bit of a hands check later on. And it's also worth mentioning, because again, we've not touched too much on this. Skarner's a very broken champion. Even if you've been put down 0-3-1, not having the greatest start to the game, not having the greatest mid game, those team fights, you're going to be a front line. The late game, you're going to be finding big ultis, and if that's the case, you can single-handedly turn a game.
And I'll tell you what, for Lightside, picking up this second dragon, they're going to be very happy with that,
Yeah,
right? A little bit of additional power, a little bit of additional tankiness, and it's something that DMG isn't going to be able to leverage against them later.
And seemingly for nothing as well, DMG sleeping at the wheel, not able to find that mid-tier 1 turret off of the timing from Lightside heading into the river for that dragon. And not able to find a cross map on the top side tier 2 either, so Lightside down 5k gold, taking away Drakes. They were down 3k gold when they got that Herald, so it's just a continuation of Bitzer continuing to power farm, continuing to clear, and CS numbers across the board looking very, very good for DMG, but if they're not able to leverage that and turn it into anything, what good really is it?
No, I think that's why this mid lane tower is so important for Lightside. Once that falls down, then I think DMG are in a position where they can push a little bit further forward and establish vision deeper in DMG's jungle, as Snarby Spider-Manning himself around, almost finding Elijah. Instead going to be found out by Fastlane, who immediately gets ulted and turned on, and the game starts to get a little bit more feisty. It's Bitzer able to secure the first kill, but it's actually Lightside who win out on the initial skirmish of the fight. But here comes Scatrot, and Sumi has to get himself on out of there. It's Lightside running away, but they're the ones with the kill advantage.
The team fighting power of the Skarner. Elijah finds 2 with the ulti, pulls them back, they both fall down. Snarby and Bucci unable to stay up in the front line despite the high income of the Nautilus, despite the 2 items of the Renekton, 2 items on Kai'Sa, 2 items on Ezreal. Those breakpoints are now hit, and with Lightside coming out on top of that team fight, they could continue to do so. Look for more skirmishes, look to use the Maokai ulti, look to use Skarner as well, and try and pick off maybe some higher value targets.
I mean, it really is so much gold that has been funneled into Bucci on the Renekton, and obviously Bitzer has been able to generate his own leads that actually, if we're talking about the traditional carry roles across both these teams, relatively at parity, and obviously Fruity Fresh farming on the Kai'Sa ahead of Namex as it stands so far. And I think a lot has been said in the past about how Renekton, once he gets to a team fight in the late game, you double dash in, you try and stun the enemy AD carry, and that's pretty much your effectiveness. And if Bucci isn't able to leverage this big advantage that he's managed to generate on the Renekton to apply pressure in a side lane, get on flanks, and really threaten Lightside, then it's kind of money for nothing.
The thing that made Bucci so good in his game last week was his ability to find access in those team fights, was his ability to be a presence that picked off the vital target. Have to see whether or not he's able to do so again this game, and whether the power of that Renekton can shine through. Lightside now taking to the offensive, defending the mid-tier 1, attacking the enemy's top tier 1 also. Scatrot can do nothing except watch this fall.
The mid lane tower still standing strong. Sumi going to be rooted up here, which is going to give an angle for DMG, but he's just able to Archon shift out of there. Surprise Crocodile Bitzer with the Requiem kill as Bartoldi goes in for absolutely nothing at all, and Lightside with good maneuvers, but a couple of fumbles around the mid lane tower gives it right back to DMG.
Yep, Sumi not playing safe enough underneath that turret, overstepping his bounds, a bit of miscommunication as to where Bucci could be on the map. Now DMG, a couple of kills in, jungle are dead, let's go Baron.
Post 20 minutes, the threat that permanently exists. Jungler off the board, mid laner off the board for Lightside. An attempt at a contest is going to be made. Elijah TPing in, but Fruity Fresh already a little bit chunked, and Bucci standing on the side, looking for an aggressive maneuver if he can find one onto the enemy AD carry. But DMG don't feel the need to go aggressive. Take down the purple worm, and they get out with their lives.
40 seconds until the Mountain Dragon spawns. Lightside, they took 2. Up till now. Whether they can find a third or not remains to be seen. Personally think that that's going to be a bit of an ask. Resets came through from DMG with enough time. However, this Baron at their backs, maybe they think that a Soul Point Drake, it's not worth their time. They've got so many structures still to take.
Fruity Fresh. Oh my word, flash from Bartoldi getting on top of Namex into the stun, into absolutely everything, and DMG thought they found a bit of the mid lane, but Scatrot jumps into the melee!
He knows what he's doing!
He's absolutely smurfing this one! Fastlane going to be going back in, but it's Smarby finding a catch onto Sumi, and here comes the Crocodile! DMG with another fantastic fight in the mid!
Scatrot feeling himself, dashing, jumping straight into the mixer there! Lightside see the Tristana jumping in, sound the alarm, that's illegal. But actually, Scatterot, well within his rights as a Yordle to hop on in, dish out the DPS, keeps himself and his team afloat, and not just that, turrets are going down to boot.
Just about able to jump away and get on out of there. DMG maximizing their gains off of that fight. Taking the mid lane inhibitor tower, taking this dragon as well, denying the soul point as a potential win condition, something that Lightside can play towards, and Bucci getting himself even more farmed on the top side.
Inclined to think, Middlecott, that we are going to be heading towards a very, very top-heavy side of 5 and 3, or 4, rather. 6 and 2.
Numbers
Sorry,
are hard.
everybody.
Numbers are
Sorry,
hard.
everybody. You know, it's been a hot day. Not a long day yet. We're only on game 2. But I'll blame the heat exhaustion.
But it is lethal here right now.
Yeah.
It's gone above 12 degrees in the UK,
I
which
mean,
means that it's just
unbearable levels.
Quote from Bucci: "We need to nerf weather."
Oh, and all of a sudden he's again my favourite top laner. Crazy.
It's been a great performance from him. Elijah not quite able to match up against that crocodile. He did have a fair bit of help though, Bucci.
A little bit. You know, like we said, ganking in the lane was truly revolutionary, and bits of kudos to him for that.
Yeah, Elijah still though trying to find usefulness here on the Skarner. Sumi once again with an arcane shift forward.
But look at the bot side of the map, right? With the Baron at their backs, DMG, they've got a wave crashing in down there. You're going to have to play a little bit cautiously. Teleport from Scatterot is available, but Bucci not able to come down, so a potential fight down on this bot side.
Yeah, Lightside looking for a little bit of a 3v3. They're able to root up the Karthus, but bits of flashes on out of there without taking too much damage. And here comes the Tristana. Elijah with a bomb on his head and finds himself dead. DMG, they get the kill, they get the tower.
Oh!
They haven't got away, but oh my word, where has he gone? Where has he gone? This is the most stealthy crocodile that I've ever seen in my damn life, and DMG, they don't have a Baron no more, but they're still looking for a push and potentially even more.
Now, they've got a minion wave though, Middlecott, and they have a numbers advantage. 20 seconds on either of the solo laners. 6 Void Grubs, a can-do attitude.
Yeah, and Fastlane trying to stop it from happening, but he's not going to be able to. That's 1 kill in favour of DMG with no one else falling down. We've got 8 seconds on Elijah, 15 on Sumi, and
Got the wave.
the second Nexus tower may be a bridge too far for DMG, although after taking the inhibitor, they're fancying themselves once more. A teleport onto the minion. 5 members going to be in the fray. We've got the dive forward. Fruity Fresh with the follow up, but he only finds 1 before he's going to be chased away. Ultimate coming through from downtown. Elijah slamming Bucci against the tower, but he's fine for the time being. Heals up and survives somehow. A valiant last stand coming out from Limbis Lightside, but they don't quite have the damage. Fastlane looking to try and save the game, but it's not going to happen. The final hit comes through, and DMG with win number 6.
It was brazen from DMG. 2 kills, no Baron, just go straight for it. Really solid performance though. They managed to get the kills, they managed to get the turrets, they managed to get the Nexus. Top to bottom, solid performance.
One of the top 10 I'm him, I'd win moments of the NLC summer for sure. We're going to be dropping it to a quick break. Hopefully our camera's fixed by then. Let's see what the analyst desk has to say about that game.
At SteelSeries, we make the headsets, mice and keyboards that the world's best gamers win the most with. And we've been doing it since way back. It's up to you how far you go, but whatever you do, go for glory.
watch the fire burn away the cold. I am rising from the dust, despite how much we love.